Hello, Riderflex Nation. Steve Urban here with more job interviewing tips for you. Question from a listener on the podcast. Should they order a glass of wine during an interview if the interview was, let's say, at dinner or happy hour? Great question. And this has come up a bunch in my career, and I've seen how it can go good and bad. So I want to give you my insight and advice on the topic. In general, when it comes to alcoholic beverages and being around a potential employer or supervisor, here's the rule I would follow. If it's your first face-to-face encounter, the first time you've met them in person, let's say it's at dinner or happy hour, all the other previous conversations have been on the phone or maybe video conference, and it's the first time you're meeting them in person over dinner. If they order a glass of wine, should you order a glass of wine? My general rule is this: no. During your first encounter in person, you want to be as sharp as you possibly can and on your game with your background, your experiences, etc. If you're like most people and you have an alcoholic beverage, one or two, you're going to loosen up a little bit. You're probably going to miss things. So if it's your first encounter in person, I would pass. I would order water at first, let them have their glass of wine, let them hit you with the questions. You do your presentation, you knock it over the fence, you win them over, and you pass on the alcohol, at least during this first meeting most of the time. Now, let's say that dinner has gone really well and you feel it moving towards the fourth quarter, if you will, of the dinner, and things have gone great, and you've answered all the questions, and they're starting to loosen up and just talk about personal life and hobbies and things like that. Maybe then you have a glass of wine to do a couple of things: put them at ease and make them relax. Now they're not the only one at the table having an alcoholic beverage, and so they're probably going to relax even more and so forth. So maybe if you feel comfortable and you feel like you've done all the right things and you've gotten through the first half of the interview, maybe you order an alcoholic beverage towards the back end and you just have one because you want to be super, super careful. Now, if you're sure that you haven't offended them or made them feel uncomfortable that you didn't order an alcoholic beverage, then just don't order one, at least during that first meeting. Now, let's take it another step. Let's say you've already met them in person at the office. You've done interviews with several people at the corporate office. Now, this potential supervisor and a couple of the team members have invited you to happy hour or invited you to dinner for yet another meeting in person. That's a little bit different, right? They already like you, obviously. You've already knocked it over the fence in your interview. Now they're trying to get you out to a social setting to see if you're going to be a joy to hang around and the type of person that fits their culture. In that case, if everybody's ordering a drink or a glass of wine, I probably would order a glass of wine as well, and just kind of relax a little bit and get to know them. But again, in this particular case, you're super careful. You're super conservative, right? Maybe you order that one glass of wine and you just carry it around for 2 hours and sip on it. And you don't order a second one. I think that would be a general rule to follow because, again, you're still being evaluated. You're still being interviewed. You don't want to appear to be too stuffy. You want to appear to be like the kind of person that'll have fun and loosen up a little bit, but you want to be super careful and not drink too much. So those are the general rules I would follow. Now, this podcast obviously is assuming that you normally would have maybe a glass of wine and so forth. If you don't drink alcohol at all, then by all means don't order anything. Now, you're running the risk that you won't fit into their culture or whatever, but maybe that's a good thing because maybe that's not the culture for you. So, but assuming that you do have a glass of wine occasionally, I'm trying to give you some tips on how I would handle it if you're faced with this topic during the interview process. And there is your Riderflex tip of the day. As always, folks, you can call in or email us with questions and we'll help you in any way we can. Our podcast can be heard just about anywhere these days. We appreciate you listening. Visit riderflex.com to learn more about us and have a great day.